Hello everyone, welcome aboard Tom Strains. Today it's a review and we're looking at the Proxxon KGS 80 chop saw. So just continuing looking on at the box then, you can see here what the saw can actually cut. Obviously this is all in German, but this is for 90-degree cuts. So you've got the depth of the material and the width of the material there in millimeters. So 10 by 65, 18 by 50, 21 by 40 or 25 by 25. And for round material, maximum diameter of 25 mil. For your 45-degree mitre cuts then, 5 by 36, 10 by 30, 15 by 25, 20 by 18 and a max diameter of 20 millimeters. You can see the technical data there, 6,000 RPM approximately. It's quite a heavy piece of kit. It weighs in at 6 kilograms. So, having had a quick look at the box, let's look and see what we get inside. Okay, so this is what you actually get inside the box. It's packaged with foam polystyrene to keep everything secure, and I actually use that as a storage box at the moment for this because I don't unfortunately have it set up permanently. So we have, of course, the saw unit itself. We have the cutting fence and the 3-pin plug, which is just supplied. It's an adaptation from the European plug socket there. Also included in the box is an instruction booklet, which I would highly recommend that you read because it does contain quite important information about how to actually use the saw itself. So overall first impressions of this then are that it is a very sturdy unit indeed. It's that cliched thing really of German engineering. It feels very solid, no sort of loose bits, nothing sort of clunking around. It's all very nicely made. Let's have a look now in detail at some of the features of the chop saw itself then. So first of all, we have the base. There are 4 anchor points on the base there. There's just one at the back as well, if you can see that there. And they allow you to screw the unit down onto your workbench. I would highly recommend that you do that. That's going to stop anything moving around and it's going to really help to increase the accuracy of the cuts that you're going to make. The next part of the saw itself, on the base is this cast aluminium plate. It's very, very heavy. It gives nice stability, and on that plate we have the rotating mechanism for creating your mitered cuts. Let's go in and have a closer look at how that works. Okay, so here you can see the marker that helps to tell you where you're actually aligning the cuts, and the dial here goes 45 degrees either side. It's in marked in 15-degree increments, and each degree is individually marked. In order to move the table around, you simply unscrew the knob on the right hand side, like so. Lift up here to release the clip, and then simply move the wheel around. You then let go of the clip and tighten up the knob on the right hand side. Every 15 degrees has a latch, so it automatically snaps in place like that. But of course you can set the chop saw to any angle you like. That's 20 degrees there, simply by tightening the knob on the right hand side. That is then set and ready to cut. The other main feature of the rotating table is of course the vice grip to hold the material that you're looking to cut. It's got a very sturdy knurled handle on there for extra grip, and the vice jaws are very strong, solid metal. There's very little play in there. It's all nice and solid, so anything that you put in there isn't going to move around. On the top, there are 2 grooves for holding sort of strip material. And inside, I don't know if you can see that, just where my finger is, there's actually a groove, and that helps you to hold round material. The jaws open up quite wide. So that would give you your maximum depth and maximum width of material that you can actually cut, and they screw up really nice and tightly. You'll notice, of course, that they have the beveled edge, and that is so you can do your miter cuts. Another feature here at the front of the saw is the cutting fence, which is included in the kit, and you simply unscrew the small screw there, slot the cutting fence in like so, tighten up, and then you can insert material, put it to the right length and get consistent cuts every time, identically. And I'll show you that when we actually come to operate the unit later on. The cutting fence, when you use it, just simply rotates out of the way so that the material can fall freely once you've cut it. The final feature really of the saw base itself is the adjustment, the lateral adjustment of where the saw blade actually falls, and that's round here at the back. It's quite tight to actually adjust, but as you can see, I can move the saw blade across. I don't tend to adjust this too much. I tend to set up the saw and leave it set in one position, but I'll show you why that's important later on when we operate the saw. One other feature of the saw is the ability to change the blade. As I mentioned earlier, it comes with a 36 tooth carbon tipped blade as standard. That can be changed out for an alternative blade if you wish to cut different materials. A couple of screws to undo. You've got to take off the safety guard, and you've also got to remove the blade itself. Can be a little tricky, takes around 5 minutes. All you have to do is just follow through with the instructions, and it really doesn't present any problem whatsoever. Finally, here back on the top of the unit, we have the interlocking mechanism and safety guard. The interlocking mechanism simply prevents you from moving the saw down whilst it's plugged in, so you have to have both buttons depressed, so this one and this one, which then lifts up the safety guard and allows you to make your cuts. In here is the cutting disc. It's supplied as standard with a 36 tooth carbide tipped blade. To be honest with you, I've tested this unit quite a lot. As you can see, it's not brand new, but I wanted to test it, and this cuts through all the material that I've wanted to cut, so be it aluminium, brass, plastic, wood, you name it, this thing has gone through it like butter, so it's very, very good indeed. Okay, now having had a look at the unit, let's actually have a look and see how it performs in a practical test. Okay, so let's have a look at the actual practical operation of the KGS 80 chop saw. One thing that's really, really important, and this is probably the one gotcha and the main flaw with this product, and it's only a flaw if you don't know about it, it's fully explained in the instruction booklet, is the lateral adjustment of where the cutting blade actually goes down over the jaws. As you can see there at the moment, the cutting blade clears those jaws, no problem at all. However, if I move the cutting blade across like so, if you haven't checked it, then you could be in a situation where, when you move this down, the cutting blade actually snags on those jaws. As I mentioned earlier, this is very strong, very dense metal, so if this saw blade contacts that, you could ruin quite an expensive bit of equipment. And I have read of tales of people doing that because they didn't read the instruction booklet, so quite easy to forget that. And also, if you're switching between straight cuts and 45-degree cuts, you might be able to see there that the cutting blade is actually snagging on that 45-degree miter there, whereas before, when it was straight, it clears it no problem at all. So that's just something to watch out for when you're actually using the saw. As you can see, you can just use the lever on the top here just to move the saw down to see where your cut is actually going to be. And now we're going to insert a piece of wood into the cutting blade and see how it goes. This is quite a strong piece of wood, quite a tough piece of wood. So just into the vise, up against the fence, tighten, glasses on, move the fence out of the way before the first cut, always, and then we can go ahead and make the cut. Okay, you can see there we haven't quite gone through the material. That's because it's ever so slightly too thick, so we'll just pass this through once more. And again, up against the fence. Tighten up with the vise, and one more cut. And I just forgot to remove the fence. There we go. Okay, and there you go. You can see a really nice smooth cut. Nice smooth cut there, very soft, very little flash over. Really does cut very nicely indeed. And then of course, if we wanted to, we could make another cut by simply putting the fence back down, moving the stock along, up against the fence, removing the fence, remembering to do so this time, and then making another cut, and we'd have another block of wood exactly that same size. Let's have a go now and see how it does with aluminium, and we'll try a 45-degree cut. So I've set up the saw now for the 45-degree cut on the aluminium. I've moved the cutting blade along so that it clears the jaws of the blade, and I'm just locking in the 45-degree cut there. Going to be cutting this piece of aluminium. It's about 1 inch wide, 2mm deep, and we're just going to pop that into the jaws like so. I'm going to use the top jaws on that just to make an initial 45-degree cut. Goggles on once more, and we'll go through with this one. As you can see there, a lovely straight cut, perfect 45 degrees right through that piece of material. I'm just going to flip this over now and do another cut about halfway along. Okay, and there you see we've got a little bit of burring on there, so we just need to file that off, but you can see there a really nice 45-degree cut, and that's the same blade cutting through aluminium just as well as it does through wood. Okay, let's tidy up and then we'll have a quick summary of the KGS 80 chop saw. In summary then, I think this is a really nice piece of kit to have in your workshop. If you have any interest whatsoever in perhaps things like model trains or picture frames or miniature dolls houses or anything like that, anything that you need to cut material with, you need to make accurate repetitive cuts, then this chop saw is ideal. Clearly it's made for smaller scales. The size of the wood that you're allowed to, or the size of material that you're allowed to cut with that kind of dictates it. You're not going to be able to build a garden shed using it, but it can cut a decent amount of material nonetheless. The supply cutting blade is sharp and powerful, and as you saw goes through metal and wood with equal ease. All the adjustments are strong and sturdy. There's very little play in any of the parts of the system, and it's a well designed solid piece of kit that clearly is going to last you for quite some time. The solid base is ideal to be mounted to your workbench. I would certainly recommend that you do that. And obviously always observe the correct safety precautions. Overall, having used this now for about the last 4 or 5 months, I would highly recommend the Proxxon KGS 80 chop saw. Of course there will be cheaper alternatives out there, but I think this is really a case of you get what you pay for. Thanks very much for watching. Please have a look at my other videos, and please leave any comments or suggestions that you might have. Thank you very much. Bye bye.